head of the Center of the Competencies from Promselbank, Mr. Novitsky, CEO from the Company of Innovative and Scientific Technological Center, and representatives of the Analytical Center, Mr. Sergey Shivalov. He is the program director. He is in charge of the elaboration of all the documents for this Noospheric Development Center. I've introduced key speakers already, and I hope that we will be able to take some questions from the audience as well. We understand that in the framework of the session we will not be able to touch upon all the questions and issues, but we sincerely hope that the key provisions and the key issues will be discussed. Mikhail Pavlovich, I'd like to pass the floor to you. You are a well-known person in the Republic. You've initiated a lot of proposals that have been successfully executed in the Republic, so your viewpoint, your standpoint is quite valuable and crucial for everybody who's interested in noospheric development of Altai. Please, the floor is yours. I'd like to start with extending my gratitude to everyone. You are spending your time with us, and this is the most valuable resource all of us have. And let's make a retrospective analysis of how we have come to the actual execution of environmental policy, how we have put it into practice, and how we have become leaders in terms of noospheric development. And it hasn't happened overnight. It took us about 30 years to achieve these results, and it started back. There is an official date when we launched this project, the Vector for the Green Policy Development. It happened on the 1st of November 1990 when we signed an agreement that was initially initiated by the first secretary, the founder of our republic, Mr. Cheptanov. And at that time, I was the head of a creative group, and we were implementing the economic zone development initiatives. And maybe you have heard about that. We've elaborated the ruling of the government of the Russian Federation and also the draft provision for the economic zone of Altai, and it came into force in 1992 and has been in active use during 10 years. And we have achieved very good indicators in terms of the parameters. We had 6,000, more than 6,600 various precedents that we have analyzed. So environmental development areas have been defined during the international symposium that was held on the 24th of September 1994. And the main goal of that economic zone was to shape a cooperation model, a synergy between people and nature, preservation of ethnic peculiarities of the indigenous peoples in the Republic of Altai. The thing is that the current status of Altai as the first economic noospheric area and region of Russia, and that has been preserved in the order of March 2nd of 1993 on the state support measures for the economic development of the Republic of Altai, and in its meaning the environmental economic region. This status is official based on this order, in this decree, and this is an area that has been defined in the mountainous region, and it was an experimental development model in order to preserve the environment in the country, and a number of provisions have been implemented in accordance with the decisions made at symposium, and funds were allocated in order to include some natural sites into the UNESCO natural sites. We've obtained this status, and we've executed all those provisions and measures. 5 sites, as a result, have been included into this list: the Katun Natural Reserve Fund, the Teletska Lake, and the mountain of Belucha, and 2 others. And in order to hold this event, about 1/4 of the territory of the Republic was defined as the specially protected area. And now these territories still preserve this status. Another component of this international symposium that was held here in 1991 was the implementation of the guidelines and recommendations of the clean generation in the Republic of Altai. And now we can say that the full capacity of the solar generation amounts to 120 megawatts, and now we are designing the small hydraulic plants at the rivers of Altai, and we will provide for the full generation of energy using the energy of rivers together with the solar energy. And in the framework of the execution of those guidelines from symposium in 1991, we started the transition, the heating in Altai using natural gas. In 2006, this initiative started. About 80% of the stations, boiler stations in the Republic, they are located in Gorny, Altaisk, and we have successfully implemented this transition to natural gas in all of those boiler stations. And another very important conceptual provision was that 2 documents for long-term development were adopted: the concept of green economy of the Republic of Altai up to 2065. It was adopted in the respective decree of the government, and strategic economic development strategy up to 2035, also mentioned in the respective decree of the government. So all of those steps that have been taken during those decades, they confirm the efficiency of targeted actions that need to be undertaken. As a result of these actions, the Republic of Altai in the economic Noospheric index ranks first, and this leading position we have gained, and we are very much ahead of all the other regions, and the capital indicators are much better. For example, in Chechnya, it is about 101%, and we are very much ahead of this indicator. And 1 minute is left for your report. Okay, understood. So these 30 years of economic development demonstrate that a successful transition towards noospheric development should be in line with the spiritual development and evolvement. An efficient mechanism that can allow us to ensure future development of this model in the government of Altai Republic will be the establishment of innovative and Noospheric center, and it will focus on three main areas in the framework of regenerative economy: the organic agriculture and also the natural forest use, and the regenerative pharmaceutical sciences, and also the regenerative waste management areas. And some other areas were defined: the automated monitoring of environmental status, the managed financial systems, and also managing the environmental burden of all those sites and lists of their respective sites. So these technologies will be focused on pedagogical sciences and environmental policies and the technologies for noospheric development. Summing up, I'd like to say that there is a high demand of the population for sustainable noospheric development, for the regenerative development of various technologies. We already see such a demand and such a request in population, and the population is growing, and we need climatic sustainability and also the scientific development that should be in place. We are on the edge of entering the new era of environmental entrepreneurship, and we think that in the upcoming years, new mechanisms will be executed in order to ensure the transition to this new noospheric sphere, and we will be able to put forward a number of proposals in order to make this future possible and to make this transition from the consumer experience to more sustainable environmental principles with a new knowledge and new expertise, and making this noospheric society possible. And Mr. Vernadsky and his words, I'd like to quote. So when we create the noosphere, it will happen sooner or later, but state policy will be focused on it. So Vernadsky mentioned that this time would come, and now we see that it is actually happening. And these sessions that we had yesterday and we have today will continue also in future. Thank you very much.
Time is almost up. We see that there is time to start noospheric development, and we see a huge potential within the Republic and beyond on the international scale. The things that we lack now in order to implement this scientific and technological potential, we need a practical framework for implementing this. And the Science and Technological Innovation Center is one of the quickest practical solutions that will be able to give a new impetus to this development without limiting the actions of anyone else. So I would like to ask Mr. Sergei Shuvalov, the Program Director at the Interdepartmental Analytical Center, who are forming those centers. Sergei, please be brief, if you will. The floor is yours. You've got 6 minutes at the most. Good morning, dear colleagues. I hope you can hear me well. Good morning once again, dear colleagues. I can't see the screen, unfortunately, but I would like to get the second slide of my presentation. Building on what Mikhail has said, a few words about the background and the logic of this project of the Noospheric Center. It started back in 2017 when Federal Law number 216 was adopted, which made it possible for creating regional Skolkovo centers, so to say, within technological and scientific organizations. In 2020, the government of Russia has adopted an individual social and economic development program in Altai, establishing a preferential regime for the republic. The head of the republic, Oleg Krokhordin, decided to apply this preferential treatment to a technical valley, so to say. This technical valley, as defined by Federal Law 216 as a territory with a special legal regime, economic benefits, customs benefits. The list of preferences and benefits can be seen on the slide. And this valley is mostly created for making it easier to engage in science and innovation on the territory, engaging in research, application, and commercialization of scientific developments. This territory would also provide for innovative, practice-based educational programs, because in the areas where this particular valley is specialized. This slide shows the list of technological valleys that have been created since the law was adopted. Each of the valleys is established with a separate decree of the government of the Russian Federation. And as we say that it was legally established, we mean that there was a decree for the establishment of this particular valley. Currently, there are 11 technological valleys created by the decrees of the government. Other applications are being considered for creating such valleys in a variety of Russian regions. Since 2017, several changes have happened in the establishment of such technological valleys, and we have rethought this instrument. In the beginning, many saw those technological valleys as a buzz trend, something that is in vogue, making sure that every region has their own technological valley. But now we have come to realize that this is not a goal unto itself, but just a starting point of a difficult journey to really create this valley and launch its functions in full scale. Now we have got a few good examples of technological valleys that have been legally established quite recently, but they are vibrant. They've got lots of residents, industrial partners. We can see a positive dynamic there. At the same time, there are some technological values who really exist only on paper, although the decree was adopted several years ago. I don't give you real examples because that would have been unethical, but it is transparent and accessible to everyone. Regulations that have been adopted since then for the work of technological valleys have been made more stringent in terms of reviewing applications. Since last year, only good quality applications are being supported. In case there is a good university behind this valley, and if the project is supported by senior officials from the regions, that the value would be created. In line with the Federal Law 216, the valley has to be could be interregional. It could include territories across several regions of the Russian Federation. The aerospace valley that would be covered by another speaker is an example of such interregional valleys. Next, I would like to outline the reasons for creating a Noosphere Center in the Republic of Altai. It is an important institutional framework for the development of the region based on optimum balance of economic and technological goals and objectives. This is quite relevant right now because the Republic has an enormous natural and resource potential that could be untapped for economic development and for increasing the welfare of its residents. On the other hand, the Republic is facing a deficit of technology, competence, and production facilities in order to efficiently and prudently transform this potential into real economic gain. We see a rise in the interest in the Republic from outside players, both for the development of tourism and wood production, medicinal plants, and other resources that can be found in the Republic. There is a real risk for becoming a supplier of unique resources without processing it in the raw form. The jobs and added value would be created in other regions, and this is a risk that the Republic of Altai is facing. The Republic has a unique territory, and as it is drawing more attention, it could become a range for the testing of several technologies, including environmental protection technologies, but again in the interest of outside players. This doesn't resolve the issue of increasing jobs and boosting the welfare of the citizens. All this means that the Republic needs investment in environment and economics, and that's why we create a technological value with the tax benefits and a comfortable administration regime. Here we have the potential areas for specialization of this innovation center. Mikhail has already listed them. On the one hand, we can see that those areas are unique and they reflect the solutions of the Noospheric development in the Altai region. On the other hand, we see that those are in line with the federal agenda on environment, digitalization, biopharmaceuticals, and quite a range of other areas. Within the Noosphere Innovation Center, we see a number of areas that are relevant for the whole of the country. That is why this Innovation Center has a great potential for putting forward horizontal ties with startups, universities, and major companies who are implementing social and environmental initiatives. We also have a good potential for cooperating with other Russian regions, including Siberia and other. My concluding slide says that these are our expectations from creating this innovation center in the Republic of Altai. First, this technological value will help us attract the competences and investment that we need to implement Noospheric development concept in practice in an individual region. Further on, we expect to scale up the best practices from this region into other Russian regions. The relevance of the environmental agenda is ever growing, and we expect this Noospheric Innovation Center to allow the Republic of Altai to become a leader, not just in the promotion of this Noospheric agenda, but also in doing pilot programs and applying the organizational solutions for the practical implementation of the Noospheric agenda. This concludes my presentation. I hope I'm on time. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shuvalov. Alexander, the Siberia region was referred to. You represent Tomsk State University, who is a leader in terms of environmental agenda in the international stage as well. So the floor is yours, Mr. Vorontsov. If you are within the limit of 5 minutes, I'll be grateful. I'll do my best. Alexander Vorontsov. Now we'll see the presentation on screen. I'm Vice Rector for Research at the Tomsk State University. I have already been introduced. I'm going to talk about the quality of life in times of climate change. Since there is a time limit, I'll try to start with the essence of the issue on the agenda. We will probably have some comments from other participants on my presentation. You can see that the most important issues are the loss of biodiversity, the emergence of new infections, and other that we see on the slides. Sustainable development in the society requires a balance between the social, economic, and environmental spheres. We expect that in 5 to 10 years, the issue of biological threats will be put forward on the agenda, and that's why we're here to discuss this issue. We'll skip several slides. Stopping here. My previous slides were just about the relevance of this topic. We've got an agreement. We were the first in Russia to sign an agreement with the United Nations on how to accurately measure the quality of life. And we have developed an thriving the index. And we are part of this blossoming garden. We are outpacing some of the cities, and it's great news. The Siberian Imperial University was established in 1878. This year we celebrate our 145th anniversary. We are on top of many ratings, including international ones. We would normally be among the top 5 universities. The research that would be in line with today's agenda is important, and our university was the first one to be established in the Ural Mountains, not to speak of Altai. And we need to work together with Altai, I'm sure of that. With over 100 years of history, Tomsk Zoological Scientific School, we are able to develop this area with 120,000 species in here, and we had the first expedition to Altai, and we found 164 new species for Siberia and 10 new species for Russia, and put them into the international database. The Botanical and Scientific School here also has nearly 150 years of history. Over 300 expeditions have been organized during this time to study the biodiversity in Altai. You see the faces of the founders of this botanic school. They have established the botanical garden in Siberia. It is quite unique, especially for the region in which it is located. We are proud to have this in the Tomsk State University. This botanical garden is rather unique. The herbarium that was established in Siberia in the beginning of the 19th century, and we have added quite a number of species from Altai by Mr. Sapozhnikov, who is well known for his research conducted in Altai. But again, you might be better aware than I am on this on his particular activities. A glaciological school in Tomsk also has a research station that has been operating since 1914 by Mr. Sapozhnikov and the Tronov brothers, who organized the first expedition on the Beluga mountain. And this research station in Severodvinsk, they studied the glaciers of the valley. So it's a great school. Our archaeologists are also very competent. We've got many of those, and they are very successful. Speleologists and other competences. We've got 24 departments and 17,000 students with across a wide range of competences, and we can put this all into practice.
The next slide, please. Okay. Dear colleagues, could you please turn off our video conference? The next slide. So here you can see the rare species on the territories of Siberia and Altai. I will not enumerate them because specialists know better than myself. I'm a physicist. So 41 species of animals, and you can see some species that are found only on these territories, and endangered species that can be found on the territories of the Russian Federation. It is not only about animals, it is also about the plants, and I will mention it further on as well. You can see some figures on this slide. So we have experimental agriculture here on Altai, and colleagues know that it exists. It was organized even at the times of academician Belayev, and there was the rearing of various types of animals, and that rearing activities of the rinkedinks has become quite outdated, and it was established back in 1979, and it belongs to the Ministry of Science and Education. It has a lot of square meters, a large area, and the figures are presented on the slide. This land is the property of the Russian Federation Administration, and Mr. Falkov is responsible for this development. About 6 months ago, a decision was made that this land will be transferred to Tomsk State University. It will become like a branch of our university, and 2/3 of this journey has been over, and very soon I think we will have all of this land to ourselves. In red, you can see the Chuisky highway on this map, and you can see that on the northern borderline, it is the border with the Altai region, and then on the bottom up to Barlak, a little bit lower than Barlak, is marked on this map. So we have organized several expeditions, and we tried to make a conclusion whether we needed that territory, and biologists they said that this expedition was quite unique, and they've seen some birds and some species that they have never seen in their lives, and astronomers also plan to build the observatory, and their scientific research can be conducted, and it will be a unique basis for such kind of observations. So this process is ongoing, and about a month ago we joined efforts with Mr. Dovgi, and we decided that the best solution for us to have this branch of the university, and the best way is to organize the valley that has been mentioned by our previous speaker, the first one. And it actually coincides with those priority areas that have been mentioned before, and we provided actually this wording. So it will be a very important test field for this endangered rare species, and we would like to ensure biodiversity with cutting-edge technologies. At Tomsk University, we have very good geneticists and biological department, and we won agro-biotech competition. We invited Mr. Belakhvat, who is the head of the Siberian department of the Academy of Agricultural Sciences, and there will be a test field for state-of-the-art technologies, what we have been talking about, the solar energy development and the renewable energy sources, unmanned aircrafts that we have been developing at our university as well, and we are thinking about building a runway, and the basic clusters that we would like to have on this land, you can see them on the slide, and they coincide with the bullet points that Mr. Shuvalov has mentioned before. So now we are quite willing to continue this work, and yesterday we've seen all the sites, we visited all the places, and we see where there is still room for improvement, and we decided that we will organize a task force in order to create this industrial valley, and we have Mr. Harakorkin's letter to our rector that says that we should be moving forward, and the next step is to elaborate a mechanism to do that. So key areas that we are going to develop there, I will not read them out, all the agro-technical activities and the test field that has to be developed on those territories. And that is it for my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. We understand that we have a lot of plans, and we understand how we should be moving forward. But yesterday When we visited those sites and we were talking about specific projects, we understood that the weakest link here is about the people and the personnel that has to be trained, and they can be trained outside of the Republic of Altai, but then it will be very difficult to relocate them to the Republic of Altai. And I think that there is no other alternative but the development in the framework of Gorno-Altaisk University. And we understand that you, Ms. Guselnikova, is in the vanguard of those activities. Dear colleagues, dear speakers at the Presidium, we have a very rich history. We have been training educators and professors since 1949, and for the last decades we have existed as the classical university, and now we have about 30 pedagogical areas, disciplines that we are focusing on. And of course we do use this experience that we have accumulated. We understand that there are state-of-the-art resources, and a lot has been mentioned about Noospheric mindset and environmental development, and we would like to bring the message across to the students we have and to the residents of the Republic of Altai that all of these activities are aimed at preserving and striking the balance and giving birth to new type of the mindset among people. And of course the system of education is a crucial element, a crucial link in the overall system. So that is why we are developing this topic of the education as the main paradigm in these developments. And we set the following tasks for us and for the modern education as well. The shift in the education towards harmonization and environmentalization, and also we are thinking about how we should restructure educational processes, how we should modernize educational technologies, how we should manage education more efficiently, working with all the links in the system of the education, starting with kindergarten and the practical organization of educational space in order to use fully the cutting-edge technologies and to make educational programs more efficient. And it is about changing the perception on environmental mindset. And of course, the Altai Republic is the perfect place to bring that into life. And it is the environmental disciplines are one of the key areas we are focusing on, and we have been doing that for more than 20 years in the regions. And over these years, we have trained thousands of specialists, and on the slide you can see some jobs of those specialists in our regions, and actually they are working in all the spheres, in all the sectors. And traditionally the university is the platform for conferences, forums and workshops dedicated to environmental problems. These are international scientific conferences like the modern challenges of environmental practices, and also cross-border CIS partnership and international scientific conferences and other types of events that have been held here, all related to environmental practices. We've initiated a lot of projects and eco-environmental schools and projects, the projects for international cooperation for sustainable use of natural resources in the Arctic and high mountains, and international summer school, for example. And there are many points where we have implemented various projects, and we work a lot with school children and tourists who visit us in summertime. And here we cooperate with Altai Katun Natural Reserve and Salongam Park, and we organize different types of summer schools and camps in order to preserve our natural resources. And we have such holidays as the Day of Water, river resources, and for 14 years we have been a platform for the natural reserve management, and we gather together students and teachers, professors from all over the country, and this serves as a basis for the development of cooperation and interaction between all the stakeholders. In 2014, with the support of the Ministry of Education of the Russian Federation and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environmental Practices, we will be organizing all Russian Olympiads also related to some environmental issues, and we will be bringing these issues to a brand new level on Russian scale. And the scientific research that we are conducting focused on specific areas, and a little bit later I will explain to you why I'm focusing on various disciplines: the estimation of toxic elements in the soils, and the landscape planning of the territories, estimation of vulnerability of mountainous chains, and also geological research of inland water resources of the Republic of Altai, and many others. Students' research encompass various areas as well. And maybe we do not have such a wide range of laboratory studies, but we have very good molecular genetics center, the Center of Hospitality and Tourism, and many others. I'd like to speak specifically about some of the centers. So Biotech Center. Here we have 2 laboratories for the genetic study and research. As of today, we are now preparing new studies with BioLead and Karim and associate and some other organizations and enterprises of the Republic, the Bees Center, for example. And we understand that it is very important to support the regional center for the talent development, Altai series. We established the laboratory for the plant studies as well, and since this September we have been working on the preservation of genetic of genome of the plants and the development of the farms and progressive technologies. And also we focus specifically on environmental education, and these centers are of paramount importance. We see how it impacts all the other activities where we are taking part as a university, and on the slide we can see those activities in the framework of these center activity. We have the school that organizes a regional tour. It is on the held on an annual basis for 12 years. We have organized the readings for students from 6 to 12 years old, and this year we also included some special needs children. We have the Center for the Development of Tourism and Hospitality, and I will not be speaking about it in detail. But why have I mentioned all of these areas? Because today, as well as the Republic of Altai, the university, like Mr. Shuvalov said, we have achieved a certain level of success, and we have very good colleagues. We understand what we are doing, but we need a project where we will be able to join our efforts, and here it is the establishment of this research Noospheric Center. We actively joined this work in terms of submitting an application as it was ordered by Mr. Harapotkin, and it is quite clear, and it has mentioned before, key goals of this center. I will not reiterate that, but for us, we understand where we will function as an independent party, and on some areas we will be working together with our colleagues, we will interact with them, and there are two technologies. The regenerative economy is one of them. It's about the development of organic agriculture, the processing of meat products, and we have the laboratories that deal with that, various methods of dealing with vegetables and other types of agricultural developments, and they are mentioned in detail on the slide. And the third one, the regenerative management of the waste, which is also very important, especially in terms of managing the hazardous waste. And we are doing a lot in order to train the guides, and we have some additional education program because at our region it is a very important area, and environmental developments of the renewable sources also will need new specialists and new employees, and for the energy support initiatives we are training new specialists as well. And we think, understanding our role and our participation in all those initiatives and the submission of these applications, we need to integrate environmental practices starting with kindergartens, and also getting back environmental principles as the specific discipline. We should not face any age limitations or restrictions, and we would like to put forward the initiation of a pilot project in order to have continuous education. And in the framework of this education, we could include all the disciplines, all the areas to have the necessary competences to shape a necessary environmental mindset that can be then scaled up to other regions. And yesterday, when we were looking at the system of noospheric development, we were discussing this concept. The scientific values and educational values were not in the center of our attention, but we discussed all the values, but we understand how they should be implemented in our republic.
I believe we need to make them part of the main list of competences for the specialists in Noospheric development. Well, I believe we have to confirm what we have. Thank you very much, Natalia. We've got Pavel Novitsky online. He is the CEO of Aerospace Valley company. Please be brief. The floor is yours. Can you hear me now? Dear colleagues, thank you very much for letting me speak to you, to this conference. First of all, I would like to welcome you all, to thank you for the invitation to work with your region. I would like to share the experience of the aerospace innovation. Aerospace Innovation Valley. Dear colleagues, our valley was officially established on the 26th of February 2003. by the government of the Russian Federation, the government of Ryazan and Moscow Aviation Institute. The president has included our region into the top pilot regions, and you see the territory that we have allocated for the so-called Protasov airfield, where we would be producing unmanned vehicles, radioelectronic repressors, and they will have an experimental legal treatment called Open Sky. Apart from the aerospace area of work, we've got radio electronics, IT, and biotech within our valley. Residents are accepted across all the 4 areas. We have a scientific and technological council that assesses whether the specific company truly works in one of these 4 areas. It can be made part of the valley. We've got several government support measures, and our resident department is supporting each step of the company's work, starting from the accession to the valley. We give all the benefits and this resident status for 10 years. And apart from the support measures and tax benefits, in August we had a pitch session where we invited several venture funds, and 3 companies are expected to close the deal before the end of this year to get investment. So we have started to develop this venture area in our work. Currently, we've got 32 residents who have been officially made part of the valley. We've got another 15 applications to be considered at the next meeting of the Scientific and Technical Council. As Vladimir has already mentioned, we are creating our own valley, and we are also negotiating agreements of cooperation and establishing branches, a branch of our space valley in your region, which will give you access to our 4 areas of work. My other recommendations would be in your own valley and in our branch. It would be important to provide the exterritorial principle that will allow you to accept companies from all over Russia. We give the status for 3 years, and within these 3 years, the region and the leadership of the valley are able to provide all the infrastructure. After the exterritorial principle is off, the companies would be forced to rent a room in an office within your infrastructure. This slide shows our experience. Out of the 32 residents of our valley, we've got young startups such as a tooth implant company called Gagarin, and we also have major businesses represented via subsidiaries. Our list includes startups, small and medium-sized enterprises, and branches of major businesses and state corporations. Again, as we establish the branch, we are prepared to share our experience of working with the residents including documentation, consulting and legal advice, support measures. One of the most relevant services in the IT sphere is consulting support for acceding to the Ministry of Digitalization register of Russian software, which helps them gain access to public procurement and extra support measures, because we've got special VAT benefits for Russian software. Here we have some rules for joining the Valley, starting from the application and up to the presentation of your project at the Scientific and Technological Council. This is our experience in brief. We're happy to share the documents and potential residents. I see a huge potential both for the IT cluster who could organize campuses, and the unique combination of technology and the nature of Altai could attract residents to live and work here in the Republic of Altai. We keep in close contact. It will help us work on your proposal. We will share your presentation with the participants if you do not mind. It's very interesting. Thank you, colleagues. I'll be in touch. Noospheric development needs legal support. This is all about definitions, government support, and support frameworks. Could you please, Roman, tell us about the proposals that have been presented today? Good afternoon, dear colleagues. As for legal support, the State Duma is open for interaction with all the actors represented at this venue. First of all, I would like to congratulate you all on the new federal date, special date for the consolidation of Russian regions. I would like to speak on solar energy that is present in the Republic of Altai. It is one of the most environmentally clean regions in the country, which is confirmed by the results of national environmental rating. We took the third place there. At the same time, we had a problem of energy deficit for a long time. We are connected to the power plant in Bisk, and that's why we had to start developing solar generation as an environmentally friendly and economical source of energy to make it more reliable. Up to 2015, we did not have our own power electricity generation on industrial scale. We only had small hydropower plants of 1.3 megawatts for remote locations in the Republic that were not connected to the overall grid in the Altai Republic. In 2014, we have constructed the largest solar power plant in Russia with a capacity of 5 megawatts. In the beginning of September, President Putin commissioned that object. Koshagach region is the sunniest place in Russia. We've got over 300 sunny days within the year. in which helped us reduce the energy deficit and start generating clean energy. We are now about to commission the second power plant in that region and 5 other regions. We constructed that using modern technologies. There is a power plant that is next to the airport where they used structural modules produced in Russia with better efficiency that helped us generate solar energy even on cloudy days. The Amur village also commissioned one of the largest solar farms. Altai was one of the pilot projects for constructing solar farms on using the funds provided by investors. We have concluded an agreement on generating solar power in Altai, and this agreement provides for constructing 7 solar farms in Altai with over 650 megawatts per hour. Remote regions will have their own power plants with a capacity of 200 kilowatts per hour. Such a hybrid power plant with a capacity of 100 kilowatts works in a remote region in Altai, which helped us save over 50 million tons of diesel fuel. Alternative energy is no waste, and it can help us resolve many environmental challenges that we are facing in Russia. Solar energy has no environmental footprint. We don't have to change the landscapes and use toxic materials to construct solar power plants. We can also allow grazing on the territories next to the solar power plants. It has still it has a number of limitations. One is the dependence on meteorological conditions. We cannot generate power at night. We can, however, we can install accumulators that would accumulate the energy that was generated to store the spare energy. However, due to technological limitations, we had to abandon the idea. Now it's not easy to buy such equipment because of the sanctions and its high cost, but I believe that in future this can be done. Koshagar region of the Altai region that have lots of sunny days. They have, however, they have no spare land plots that would be necessary to construct such power plants. We could monitor land use, and in some cases we could redistribute land plots or purchase them back from their owners, which will help boost the efficiency of solar energy. And we need to pay attention to this issue in light of the regional environmental agenda. Thank you very much, Roman. The next speaker is Mikhail Fedorin from Unified Industrial Company. He's the head of the Competence Center. Mikhail, are you online? Please be brief. I've heard you, I know that. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I won't repeat what was already mentioned by other speakers. We all realize that this activity is quite relevant and timely. At the same time, it might be unexpected as it may seem from an employee from a bank. I know that progress is not only measured in quantitative terms, but there are some spiritual, environmental, and intellectual approaches that are included in the concept of noosphere. The nature of Altai and the humanitarian approaches to the societal development are put into practice by various generations in various forms. In 2015, the United Nations have established the Sustainable Development Goals, of which several include rational water use, sustainability, quality education. These approaches have been translated into the environmental and social corporate responsibility (ESG) principles that have been adopted for implementation on a global scale, including in Russia and in most countries of the world that are using support measures to implement ESG projects. Those include green loans, loans provided for environmental projects, and for enabling sustainable development. Green bonds, also related to environmental projects, and social projects bonds used to finance awareness-raising campaigns, sports and education projects. We, as a bank, take part in that activity just like any other financial corporation. I won't dwell on the projects that are being implemented by our bank. Many of them are well known. I would, however, mention that our business unit, which seems to be far from social and environmental issues, still has concluded an agreement with Russian Agricultural Service, and we have also signed an agreement with the company on digitalization and productivity raising.
So we will be implementing cutting-edge technological solutions in order to ensure the environmental policies and at various enterprises in Russia. And we also joined with the interests the Noospheric Development Center in this initiative to establish it. And we understand very well the importance and timeliness of developing this area, and with sincere interest would like to take part in this work in order to popularize this area, this sector, and this unique region, the Republic of Altai. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mikhail. So we would like to thank you and the executive management of Rossellholt Bank. We know your attitude towards these projects, and Mr. Dobrin visited our forum and delivered his speech. So we would like to welcome you here in our Noospheric project team. Thank you very much. We wanted to come in person. We didn't manage to do that, but thank you for joining us. And Ms. Olga Plamena, maybe I didn't introduce you correctly. Well, you correctly mentioned that I'm from Rospirotnadzor, but we have a different audience with us today if we compare that with yesterday. So today I'm delivering this speech as an executive director from non-governmental environmental foundation named after Vernadsky by the initiative of Gazprom. It happened back in 1995. Could you please show my presentation on the screen? The next slide. So we are implementing programs for sustainable development of our country. And I think that many of you who have gathered here today, you know about our activities, but we are always developing those activities, looking for new areas, and now it is about popularizing the legacy of Vernadsky and his work. And I'd like to quote some words, because we should not tackle the obstacles, but we would it would be better to adapt to the changes and prevent these obstacles, these consequences from happening. And of course, it's huge work. We need to shape the mindset of the younger generation. And of course, we do understand that the principles of sustainable development were foreseen by our distinguished scientists, Mr. Vernadsky, and our foundation is named after that. And I'm glad to see that this Noospheric development are put into practice here in the Republic of Altai. The next slide. Academician Vernadsky, in his studies about Noospheric development, he emphasized the man-made impact on nature, and he wrote that a man turned into a geological force that can actually put an end to the humankind existence on Earth. That's why we need to popularize our natural legacy and the legacy of Vernadsky, because it is very important for the future generations. The Presidium of the Russian Academy of Sciences dedicated to 160 years of Vernadsky, and they emphasize the contribution of scientific organizations and other enterprises that play a very important part. So we were getting ready to celebrate 160th anniversary, and we established an organizing committee with the scientists from Moscow State University and Russian Academy of Sciences and other partners. And we have planned to hold more than 60 events. Some of them have already been organized, and the Republic of Altai has been quite active in these activities. And we prepared a video that we showed in March in Moscow Metro. And that video was included into the curriculum of the schools, and conversations about important thing was one of the events dedicated to the Day of Earth that was carried out in April. And together with the Association of Artists, our foundation has organized an exhibition dedicated to the places where Vernadsky was, where he was working, where he made his discoveries. And it was a very popular event among people. And we organized that at Chastoprudny Street, one of the most visited streets in Moscow. And in the Geological Museum, we also organized an exhibition. And in some universities, in the Union of Women in Russia, in Tambov region, in his house. And we plan also to organize it in St. Petersburg State University. We will continue developing these activities and these exhibitions. And I think that actually the more cities see this exhibition, the better. Working with the younger generation, we understand that we need to improve the qualifications of our teachers. All Russian conferences, and on the 28th of October, we will be glad to see you among participants, and we will also focus on museum activities, the role of libraries in shaping this mindset and popularizing environmental approach. The next slide, talking about Noospheric development concept, we need to understand everything about the personality of Vernadsky, and we published the 3 volumes of the book about his views, and another book will be published soon as well, a special dictionary, and a Great Son of Russia exhibition was also organized by us. And the foundation has launched S-МЕДИА channel at VK. We've organized some lectures where we discuss his work, and that is how we are getting the audience familiar with his work. On this channel, we have Vernadsky and you discussions, and there we discuss various moments of his life in a format that is quite understandable for a younger generation. They can express their opinions there, and together with the Dubny laboratory and the library, we organized it as well in the framework of all our programs. And we plan also to publish our Noospheric journal that will include more than 28 articles. And the next slide. Well, colleagues, this is only a small part of popularizing the legacy of this great scientist. And of course, we have been working on that with colleagues for a lot of years. And thank you very much for contributing to our experts and to our activities. And thank you very much for finding formats to attract the interest on the part of younger generation, and we are open for a dialogue, also to discuss programs. We kindly invite you to take part in our projects. Olga, thank you very much. You've touched upon the topic of the Union of Women, and I'd like to pass the floor to a founder of this union, and your speech will be very interesting. And please, now the video. Stick to the time limit, 1 minute and a half the video and 1 minute and a half for my speech. So this is a history of the synergy between nature, when we can create something together with nature. That is the union between people and nature. And this is like the manual collection, the lunar calendar, the love and gratitude towards the earth. That is what gives birth to this clear interaction with nature. We should remind ourselves about this importance. We are using cutting-edge technologies to achieve that. And plants is a DNA of peoples, as well as art and national habits. That's why we should be very careful in treating our DNA to the gifts of nature and what we will leave as the heritage and legacy for the next generations. A very beautiful video, something different for our discussion. The company was established in January 2022, and everything that has been mentioned before, we are actually people who are putting noospheric development principles in practice. Into practice, and over this small period of time we have achieved a lot. We would like to revive the traditions of the synergy with energy, and we are talking about the unique features of plants in Russia. On the market we have a lot of companies that are interacting with plants, but consumers do not understand the value of the plants, so people come to us and they don't understand understand what plants of Altai and Krasnodar mean and why wild plants are so unique and why do we have to adopt the laws. And that is why we are dedicating our efforts to popularize those plants, and we've become finalists in Ross Congress initiatives, and we have become a very strong brand in Ross Congress activities. It is not only about creating entrepreneurship in a new way, but also bringing the message across about the values. We see that people are ready to hear about that. We need to prepare the ground for them when people come to the Altai, and Noospheric development will be quite familiar already. And now we are putting all these small parts together in various cities of Russia. We are entering foreign markets as well, and we will be bringing our DNA there, as it has been mentioned in video. We will be bringing this message across through plants, because plants serve as a DNA, as a national cuisine, as an art, and we are a new type of a company. For a younger generation, we are using various tools to make them understand them, and the interaction, the careful interaction with plants. This is one of our initiatives that we will be developing. In future, we also actively interact with the Governor Office of Moscow. We are preparing a large project in Altai, and I'd like to invite you to visit us next year. We would like to establish a center for the interaction between people and nature, and there we will be able to show modern person what plants of Russia mean. And we sincerely hope that you will be one of the residents in our Center of Noospheric Development, and you will contribute to that. Well, at least we will be neighbors. Thank you. And now I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Khazanov, Chairman of the Board from IFAR Group of Companies. The floor is yours. Thank you. Dear friends, it is well known that in speeches the most memorizing parts are the beginning and the end of the speech. So what is the idea that we are bringing to this region, and what do we want to achieve? Well, we are using noospheric resources that we see here, because this region is a pearl of the Russian Federation. It used to be the pearl of the Russian Empire, and we are doing everything we can in order for this region to prosper in all the areas, in all the meanings. So what have we organized in order to achieve this goal? Who we are? We are between the basic science and the production, manufacturing, because any idea like Leonardo da Vinci was born too early, and many of his inventions were not put into practice because at that time there was not a sufficient infrastructure, and scientists should not be called paganels because some inventions seem unreal, but we want to make them real. We want this region to prosper because we are bringing together all these pieces of the puzzle, and it will give an impetus for the economic development of the region, thanks to the innovative development, thanks to scientific achievements. That is how the innovations are being created, and that will attract and raise the interest from younger generations. And colleagues have mentioned what they are doing in order to attract these young people, but they have to understand how they can unlock their potential, fulfill their aspirations and we need this synergy to be in place. And I'd like to tell you more about why we managed to bring the biotechnologies into the region, and we would like to promote an efficient use of resources. We cannot ban it, but we should make it unprofitable, and we have to increase the margin of those activities so that it brings benefit to all the stakeholders who come into this region. And we are creating this biotech cluster, and we are ensuring the transition of economic development. And what about the slides? Are we changing them or not? So that is what I've mentioned, and I will also give you an idea when you can click on the next slide. So what is the plan for the implementation? I'll try to be more adequate because I'm a paganelist myself. My origins are in science, though now I'm a businessman. Why do we think that it is possible? We want to bring projects here that are primarily based on biosphere of this region and also on human potential, and on whom we are attracting, and also our experience of ensuring this synergy. And the next slide, please. For example, one of the solutions that we are suggesting, and one of the projects that is of primary importance in order to put an end to some activities when some deer thorns were sold in the Middle Ages period. And we understand that, of course, it's like pumping out gas and oil and some other reserves of the country and then selling it, and then they will have a multiplied effect with all added value. And I'm speaking exactly about this feedstock that it is brought out of the country. And since 1976, I've been involved in molecular sciences, and we know that we can make something in high demand in Southeast Asia. Now they are producing high-tech products, and in Tomsk we can do that, and we can bring this production to the Republic of Altai, and it will not be profitable to use the old, outdated models.
Another project that we are going to bring here has already reached some progress, and it will make it unprofitable to export medicinal plants just like raw material. We are already growing cells of such plants in a laboratory, and this room we are in is enough to establish such a laboratory, and we can already extract the active substances that are in demand, and we would not need to destroy nature. It would become unprofitable. Current biotech helps us do all this in laboratories without destroying the nature. We can attract more young people. They would now be educated by universities, and while we are putting the technology in practice, it would be great for them to live here at home and make things that are not made anywhere in the world. And we would be exporting the products that are worthy of the 21st century, not of the 18th century. Not back in the times where they made things out of real nature, spoiling it at the same time. We are able to modify a cell of the plant genetically, and this becomes a factory producing the substances that we need. Those are the same technologies using genetically modified cells that do not pollute the environment, unlike those who put them into nature, making it harmful through cross-pollination. It's quite okay if we do it in laboratory conditions. We are already developing these technologies in various areas of life sciences, including medicine, food industry, and related industries. We will bring it here. We are already doing that. I'm not fantasizing. These are the things that are already being put into practice. We are already obtaining patents in the major markets in Russia, then Europe, the US, Japan, China, India. These are the things we do on a daily basis. This is our routine work. So if we need to conclude, there is another project that we've got and that has made a great impact into the economy of France, and we put it in practice in France and we're able to bring it here. We are an R&D center, a group of companies based in Tomsk that is organized around this R&D core, R&D center. We have been doing that for over 25 years now. I've got all the degrees and certificates. I studied sciences not just here in Russia, but also in the States. You can see who we are to make you believe that we've got everything in place to make it happen. I am grateful to the head of the Republic for the agreement that is signed yesterday here on implementing this project. And our team is a team from various corners of Siberia, academicians from the scientific city, from Novosibirsk, from Kemerovo, Tomsk, and other cities in Siberia who have already been involved here and who will be involved to make it, to put it into practice. Thank you. I hope that a part of your team will be residents within our Scientific and Technological Innovation Center, will be creating jobs in Altai. We are in dire straits concerning time because our speakers are now in a favorable position. Valentina, I can give you 2 minutes at the most, if that's possible. So, Valentina Burkova. It is kind of an update on my previous report, because these changes have happened both in the Republic and in the country. I wanted to talk about the plants now. We are only focusing on those that are in the Red Book of Rare Plants, nearly extinct plants that are, destroying them is now criminalized. Last year, by the end of the year, growing medicinal plants was added onto the list of the Ministry of Agriculture. I am not going to dwell on slides. As compared to the last year, where I spoke alone, now I've got a whole team with me, with a significant number of participants. Some of them have come lately, some of them have been working for a long time, and we're exchanging experiences. We've got a list of the plants that are included into the list of rare plants and are very expensive and unique. Some of them were brought 20 years ago from Ukraine, and since we are into this, have been into this for 20 years, we've got lots of experience, and we are happy to share it with those who would like to take part in the such projects. We are being supported, and I've got my contact details here on the last slide, so I was even faster than 2 minutes. Would you be able to be under 2 minutes, Yakov? It would be ideal. Colleagues, good afternoon. Could you please put my presentation onto the screen? My name is Yakov Shifon. I'm the head of a student technological park at the Novosibirsk State University. For a year and a half, we have been working with the Republic of Altai, building an ecosystem of innovative development in the Republic. Could you please show the chart? It's the one before last. After a deep analysis of the resources that are now available in the Republic of Altai, we've seen the huge potential for an innovative a center here. There is an educational institution that provides for the personnel, the future personnel. It's great. It's the most important thing. We only need to fine-tune the competences right now. We are working actively with the Serious Center to implement some real-life projects that we are now implementing at the Novosibirsk State University, integrated teams from the Altai Republic so that students can be educated using the high-tech projects and gaining experience in the real sector of the economy. We see that the two main topics that can be developed here in Altai that are in line with the Noospheric development prospect are biotech and pharmaceuticals and IT, including AI and other commercial solutions. Here you can see the initiatives that are being implemented together with the government of the Republic of Altai. I believe that if there is anyone who is interested, we could discuss this on the sidelines of the forum. My contacts are there in the presentation. I'd be happy to discuss those with you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chiffon. We've done an impossible thing, I'd say. I thank the speakers for saving my reputation as a moderator. Having 12 presentations within such a short limit is quite a feat. We had so informative presentations, it would have been a crime against humanity to stop the presenters. My great thanks go to the speakers, to those who have come to this forum, and I believe that Noosphere should be started with visiting the great museum that is here in the Republic of Altai. Every time I come here, I start my visit with visiting the museum, and every time I'm able to find something new. So I would like to give my public thanks to Irina. I've told it privately to you. Now I would like to give it this thanks in public. You are a role model for working, and I'm sure that people here in Altai are able to become leaders, and our task here is to help you implement all the plans and ideas that you have into practice. Thank you.